Residential market analysis and highest and best use. Chapter 3, using the something. Page 8, steps in the analysis process. The feasibility analysis is generally the most common type of market study the appraiser might be called upon to accomplish. The client will want to know if a proposed project is feasible for the marketplace at this time. Should the client invest their money and be a party to this project? The appraiser will be able to perform the necessary analysis to answer this question. The following steps can be applied to most market analysis assignments. Keep in mind the actual analysis will be developed in accordance with the appraiser's scope of work and that the steps may vary with the appraiser's decision of the work and research necessary to accomplish credible results for the individual assignment. Survey the market. The appraiser will conduct a study of the marketplace to form a conclusion about the availability of similar real estate offered to the public at the present time. Is there a new housing development proposed or in process for the subject's market area? Will the presence of that development affect the pre-owned housing market? The social attributes of the market in the overall contribution to value for properties in the market area. The community's contribution in the form of police protection, a convention center, well-stocked library system, fire protection, and the presence of ample utilities will also enhance property value for the market as a whole. General data will be invaluable in determining the segmentation of the market. This type of data will assist the appraiser in analyzing the community's contributory enhancements and their effect on the needs and desires of the buying public. Study the market. The status of the major employment centers of the community will determine the market for the foreseeable future. Any increases in the production by the employment centers may result in additional people required to facilitate the proposed increases in production. This increased production will necessitate an increase in the supply for housing. The demand will normally make itself known before supply can increase sufficiently to accommodate that increase in demand for housing. When the equilibrium status has been altered, the market will be unbalanced until the supply can catch up. It is during these market swings that the market changes from a balanced buyer's market to a fluctuating seller's market. Projecting future economic growth potential. The appraiser will want to look at the anchor businesses that form the core of employment for the community. What is the outlook for future employment trends? Are these core industries or commercial entities looking to expand their production or facilities? Is there competition for their services or products, and will that affect the stability of the core businesses? Is there a downsizing of the labor force in the company's forecast? Decrease in production and labor force adjustments reflect throughout the community in the form of less disposable income available for the purchase of those big ticket items. The demand for a bigger house may not be as great as it once was. Is the core business increasing production and hiring more people as a result of expanded demand for its services or products? If that is the case, the market is still fluctuating, but the demand will be evident throughout the marketplace. Increased employment can translate into increased demand for some type of housing in the community. Remember, earlier we stated that the supply is always trying to catch up with demand. When the core business brings in new employees, that increase is felt throughout the community. The appraiser can develop an economic-based multiplier to project the increase in the demand for services and ultimately demand for housing needs. How? Like this. The appraiser will gather the data pertaining to the total number of people employed in the community. This number will be divided by the number of those employed in the core industries or businesses in the community. The resulting multiplier can be used to identify the spin-off jobs that are created because of the presence of the core industry or business in the community. As the labor force of the core business increases, so does the number of additional jobs that are required to support that increase in employment. 22,740 is the number of people employed in the community. 12,633 is the number of core industries employees. 22,740 divided by 12,633 will indicate a base core multiplier of 1.8. This economic base multiplier indicates that for each new core employee hired, there will be an additional 0.8 jobs created in the community. This means that for every 10 new core employees hired, 8 additional jobs will be generated throughout the community as a spin-off from those core business or industry employees. This, of course, will occur over time in the community. This ultimately results in an increase in the number of people employed in the community. Any increase in employment generally means an increase in the public's disposable income. Deriving that multiplier is another analysis methodology that will enable the appraiser to project the market trends for increases or decreases in the overall demand for housing in the community. Availability of a skilled labor market. Another factor for the appraiser to consider is the brain drain of those specialized craftspeople. The skilled workforce may be leaving for other locations and better employment opportunities. The availability of a skilled workforce within the community and the employment center's ability to retain that workforce will cast a long shadow over the entire community. This situation may cause an unbalanced status in the supply side of economics for the community. This will result in an oversupply of housing in the market. The market will change from a balanced seller's market to an unbalanced buyer's market. Equilibrium status. The continued demand for the particular type of housing is an important factor in the market's ability to maintain the overall property values. The appraiser will study the market in order to determine the demand for the subject property. As you see, we keep coming back to those principles relating to supply and demand. The appraiser will determine if the market is looking for the subject's style of improvement. Is the subject property in demand at this time? Are there buyers who are looking for this type of house in this particular price range and in this market area? If there is a shortage of this type of property and buyers want to locate in the subject's market area, the market, if properly studied, with adequate data, will indicate the demand for this trend. On the other hand, the market analysis may indicate the lack of interest in the subject property's location. The result of that trend could produce an oversupply of properties for that particular location or neighborhood. If, for example, there was the occurrence of a violent act in the neighborhood that resulted in a negative perception for locating in that particular neighborhood, the appraiser's analysis will determine the extent of the public's reaction to that impact. Reaction to that neighborhood stigma. Stigmas have been known to impact values in different ways. Keep in mind that it is not okay to just dismiss the perception of value by the public because of a stigmatized condition. Additional research and analysis will be necessary to determine if the market has or does not react to the presence of a property or neighborhood stigma. While we generally talk about stigmas having a negative impact on property values, the appraiser must also realize that certain conditions found in the marketplace could actually enhance the value of properties in that market area. Property analysis. For this, we look to the subject property. This walkthrough or visual inspection of the subject site and improvements serves to identify all of the relevant characteristics that could enhance or detract from the property's value relative to similar properties sold in the subject's market area. The appraiser will be able to identify those features that contribute to value and list those detractions from value by inspecting the property. The appraiser's knowledge of the market trends will aid him or her in the identification of those relevant characteristics concerning the property. The property inspection will identify the condition of the improvement and also verify previous information obtained from various sources about the subject. The extent of this inspection process will be determined by the appraiser's scope of work required for this assignment. Without a visual inspection, the appraiser cannot know for certain all of the relevant characteristics that will or will not influence the value of the property. Extraordinary assumptions may be necessary for the development of the assignment without the complete visual inspection. Competitive properties. The appraiser will want to look at the market to determine the number of available properties that are similar to the subject in terms of both location and amenities. How much competition does the subject property have with offering the property to the marketplace? How much similar housing is being offered to the marketplace? How long have the competitive properties been exposed to the market? Have their offering prices been reduced during their exposure to the market? This may be an indication of an overabundance of similar housing on the market. Once more, we are looking at the market for an indication of excess available housing inventory. Excess available similar housing may be cause for declining property values in the subject's market area. Recent sales of similar properties. In any comparable analysis of the market, the appraiser must seek out those comparable sales that have taken place in the immediate area of the subject property. In conjunction with this process, another analysis will be demanded for those individual amenities that are perceived to contribute to value by the public. If there are no similar recent sales in the subject's neighborhood, the appraiser must seek out competitive neighborhoods for recent similar comparable sales. This information will be used by the appraiser in the comparable sales analysis approach to determine an indicated value for the subject. This extraction of information directly from the market and the application of supportable and appropriate analysis will produce a market-derived indicator of value for the subject. By applying the appropriate contributory analysis also derived from the marketplace to the comparable sales, the appraiser will be able to support the conclusions reached in the performance of the analysis process. Seek out other indicators. Depending on the type of property or the client's requirements, the appraiser will have to study the marketplace for additional indicators of value to be used in the assignment. 1. If the cost approach is a requirement for the assignment, the effective age and the total economic life of the subject will require additional research and analysis from the marketplace. Building costs for new residential construction will also be required for the completion of the cost approach to value. The appraiser may use a cost service for much of this information. However, the appraiser is ultimately responsible to ensure the cost service information is reliable for his or her market area. Market surveys by the appraiser will verify the accuracy of the localized cost service figures. Individual analysis will be required to determine the subject's site value as well as the present value of the site improvements. 2. If the income approach is a requirement for the completion of the assignment, market-derived market rental information should be researched for the analysis. The appraiser must arrive at a conclusion of the appropriate market rent for the subject property using comparable market indicators. The appraiser will also be analyzing recent sales of similar income-producing properties to obtain an appropriate gross rent multiplier, GRM, for use in the income approach. Using the market, the appraiser will always have the market to provide the necessary information for analysis. The data may not be right in the immediate market area, but it is out there in an expanded market area. The appraiser must possess the knowledge and experience to seek out the required data. The appraiser will then interpret that data for application in the appropriate analysis process to form an opinion of value for the subject property. The appraiser's scope of work will identify the amount of research that was necessary and the availability of the data in the expanded market area that was used in the appraisal process. Class discussion exercise. Long-term residential mortgage interest rates are increasing. How will that factor influence the demand for residential properties? What will be a long-term effect on residential properties because of the tightening of the supply of money for residential mortgages? How will the demand for housing be affected? Will the demand for rental housing increase? Do you think rental rates will increase? How will the supply of available housing be affected? Will the market react to the resulting oversupply of inventory? Will absorption rates be affected? Will expiration ratios be affected? Do you think other forms of financing will begin to appear? Will creative seller financial concessions begin to appear? What is a balloon mortgage? Suggested solutions. How will the factor influence the demand for residential properties? Answer. The demand for housing will diminish as the residential mortgage interest rates increase. A portion of the potential buyers will no longer be able to afford to purchase real estate. What will be a long-term effect on residential properties because of the tightening of the supply of money for residential mortgages? Answer. The supply of real estate properties being offered to the market will increase due to the decrease in demand. These properties will remain on the market for a longer period of time. Advertised prices for these properties will begin to decline, and some properties will not sell. Rental rates for residential housing will begin to increase as more people will have to rent as they are not able to buy. How will the demand for housing be affected? Answer. Demand for housing will decrease as noted above. Question. Will the demand for rental housing increase? Answer. Yes, as noted above. Do you think rental rates will increase? Answer. Yes, as noted above. How will the supply of available housing be affected? Answer. The supply of housing will increase as the demand for that housing falls off due to the tightening of the money supply for mortgages. Will the market react to the resulting oversupply of inventory? Answer. The market will adjust to the increased supply of available housing. The market will become a buyer's market due to the fall off of demand. Will absorption rates be affected? Answer. The absorption rate will decrease. Will expiration ratios be affected? Answer. Expiration ratios will increase. Do you think other forms of financing will begin to appear? Answer. Alternative forms of financing will begin to be made available to those potential buyers not able to afford conventional financing for mortgages. Question. Will creative seller financial concessions begin to appear? Answer. Yes. Financial concessions in the form of seller-held second mortgages and or incentives to buy in the form of added amenities or the inclusion of personal property will become a part of the overall package sales contract. Question. What is a balloon mortgage? Answer. Mortgages that contain balloon statements are mortgages that are amortized over a long period of time, 30 years for ease in making the mortgage payments.
The balloon provision, 5 years, provides for a fixed period of time at which the entire balance is due and payable. The period of time is much shorter than the calculated amortized period. End of page.